Big time fight coming up this weekend at flyweight. We have a couple of my guys. This is a Fight Night pick special. Flyweight never die. Mother effing Starboy, Manel Kape taking on no nickname from Kazakhstan. It's Zhalgas Zhumagulov. And this fight has so many different layers. It's like a tiramisu. And you know Habib Nurmagomedov likes that. So if he likes it, and I like this fight, I mean, what does that say? It must be good. It must be good. Manel Kape, your former champ, over with Ryzen. There was so much promise coming into the UFC. I sold so many Wolf tickets that ended up being more like Wolf Cola. But really, when you look at it for Kape, when he's on, he's on. And he's such a special boxer to watch. He can switch stances. He throws a great lead hook. But again, it's almost like he's ambidextrous. He's not one of those guys that has a particular attack from the orthodox or the southpaw stances. Now, there are a couple of intricacies within that, but by and large, relatively ambidextrous. And when you look at it, it just has to be a perfect storm. Now, his last fight out, you gotta weigh 125 for your fight, Manel. And he knows that, and you know that, and I know that, but he weighed 129 against Ode Osborne. Wanted a performance bonus after the fight? You don't get that if you miss weight, but it was an impressive win against a UFC caliber fighter. It was a good win. You love to see it. Now, the two fights that he had kind of making his way in, a loss to Alessandro Pantoja, which is, listen, it's easier said than done to beat Pantoja. It really is. And in that fight, Kape was just kind of on the back foot and didn't really start it up. And then in his next fight against Mateusz Nicolau, it's kind of more of the same thing. He just didn't. It's that Keith Richards riff. And then we're just waiting for the song to start, but it just keeps going. For Kape, his last fight out, he was actually a little bit offensive, and then boom, right when he needed to, flying knee up the middle, bang, the night is young. Manel Kape gets the party in Vegas. Now, he's been training, and we had him out of what? Overcome Academy, his last fight out. I went back and looked at the graphic. That's a gym that Michel Pereira spent a little bit of time at in and around Vegas. For this one, the pictures on the Instagrams, it's primarily over at Extreme Couture, putting on the wrestling shoes, like you used to have in the Ryzen, I was going to say cage, but really it's a ring. Taking on a guy like Zhalgas Zhumagulov, you need those. If you've ever seen Zhalgas fight, man can wrestle, man puts on some pressure. Go watch his fight against Ali Bagatinov if you want an example of that.
You better own a cardio, or you better own a treadmill if you're going to fight Zhalgas Zhumagulov, because he does put such a pace on you, and it's an uncomfortable kind of pace, because he fights at a really weird range. It's one of those ranges where he can kind of be grappling you and striking you at the exact same time, because he throws these big looping shots, but you're almost chest to chest with your opponent. It is a very awkward range for him to be at, and it's very weird, because for Zhumagulov, I had very high hopes for him coming into the UFC. He sort of underperformed, but in his last fight, he gave me a little bit more hope. With Manel Kape, I gotta be completely honest, and I guess this is where I'll open it up to a bit more of a debate. I don't look at him as the same fighter that I thought he was over in Ryzen. Like, I do think he's a little bit different, and I think he's lost a little bit of shine or confidence, whatever it is. I don't think he is the same guy he was before, and that's why I'm always hesitant when I look at Manel Kape being a big favorite in the UFC, because, okay, he didn't look good against the two top-level guys who he fought, and yes, Pantoja is one of the top 5 guys in the division, and really anyone in the top 5 could fight for a title on any given day, so there's no shame in that whatsoever. But Kape is the type of fighter who, where my expectations were, had him to beat Mateusz Nicolau. I thought with his combination of wrestling, with his power, and with his overall just durability and output.
And some would say he did.
And some would say he did, but still, I expect him to go out there and just blow the doors off Nicolau. Because Nicolau doesn't have a great chin. He has good power, but still, there's some holes in his game for sure. And the fact that Kape just never really had urgency in that fight was a little bit concerning. Because this is a guy who was at the peak of the mountaintop. Like, he was the star of stars over in Ryzen. You're selling out these massive crowds, you're the champion, and then you're fighting in the Apex in the UFC in front of like 13 people. I just think for Kape, it's just such a big difference between fighting in Ryzen in front of tens of thousands of people with shoes on, between fighting in the Apex in front of 12 people in a very small cage. I don't think we're ever going to see the Manel Kape we saw in Ryzen. That's all I'm trying to say. And this is going to be the official fight where we know what kind of fighter Manel Kape is.
I think you're going to see the corner turn from Kape, having just turned 28, training at Extreme Couture, having good takedown defense that we've seen with other organizations, but also with the UFC. against high-level fighters, I mean, Pantoja had a bit of a hard time with the wrestling. Mateusz Nicolau had a hard time with the wrestling.
Neither
Manel
guy's
Kape,
wrestling.
I want to say out of the 3 fights, his takedown defense is 80%. Now, again, limited sample size, not a lot of takedown attempts. With Zhumagulov, it's just continuing to move forward. Now, for him, he loses to Raulian Paiva. I thought he won that fight in his debut. He loses to Amir Albazi, and he lost that fight. And then his last time out, he submits Jerome Rivera. But Jerome Rivera had fights at 145, 135, 125 in the UFC. Never won any of them. He had a rough go. So Zhumagulov's coming off a big finish win. And for Kape, he's coming off a big win over Ode Osborne, who in his last fight had a competitive one against CJ Vergara that we did see not that long ago. So we have a look at the odds for this one. You kind of tipped it off a little bit, but Kape open a minus 260 favorite. He's minus 222 right now on best fight odds. For Zhumagulov, open to plus 220. He's now a plus 177. If we have a look at the Tapology votes, Matt, surprised us there to you. Listen, I mean, 1,255 total votes, 78% Kape, 31% by decision, 60% by knockout. For the 22% that have Zhumagulov, 71% by decision. I see Zhumagulov struggling with the side-to-side movement of Kape and with the activity on the feet that I've seen in certain fights, notwithstanding the 2 fights they had against ranked guys.
My prediction is going to be Kape, but there's going to be a lot of red tape I'm about to put up right now. Yes, he moves left to right really well. He doesn't throw, though, when he moves left to right, and that's what worries me against Zhumagulov. This could be one of those weird fights where Kape wins like 29-28 on the scorecards. They're going to cut to the official graphic, and Zhumagulov's going to be up like 81 significant strikes to 27. It's just the ones that Kape lands are probably going to be a lot cleaner, and that's what this fight comes down to. How does Kape deal with the forward pressure of Zhumagulov? I think he can defend the takedown attempts, so that means it's primarily going to be contested on the feet. So how is he going to deal with the overall pressure of Zhumagulov? Because I know Zhalgas can stay for a solid 15 minutes fighting at that wonky pace of his. I'm not going to say it's a great pace. I'm not going to say it's a bad one.
He can do 25 minutes at the same pace.
It's so unique to him, though, and his style with all those looping weird shots that I don't think he's going to be able to finish Kape. And I honestly don't think Kape's going to be able to finish him either. He's probably going to go to decision. It's going to be a weird fight because I think Kape's going to win, but I do think it's going to be one of those controversial decisions where the numbers might favor Zhalgas, but Kape's going to land the more damaging shot.
Fight goes to the decision, minus 145.
It's not a bad bet.
Yeah, there's only one site that offers it. I like Kape in this fight, and if you look at it for Jaco, as his nickname is over on Tapology, but not one with the UFC, you look at the losses. Albazi by decision. He is a great fighter and a technician when it touches the mat. Raulian Paiva, very good striker. Big fight against Sean O'Malley coming up. Vartan Asatryan by decision, Jifa Zhang by split decision, and then that knockout loss to Asatryan. Listen, you can't win fights against, excuse me, old Vartan. But
everybody's got a kryptonite.
Big wins, but all of them by decision. I mean, Tyson Nam outside of the UFC, Tagir Ulanbekov outside of the UFC, Ali Bagotinov outside of the UFC, where a lot of people thought Ali won that fight, but yeah, I have this one going to a decision. I have Manel Kape winning. We're in agreement on this one?
We are, but every time Manel Kape fights, I feel like we're either going to get a star-making or breaking performance. Because he really is one big knockout away from everybody being like, oh, maybe he is the guy from Ryzen. But if he does continue to just have these close fights and decisions and, missing weight in good performances against subpar competition, like, there's just always a by the way with Manel Kape. It would just be nice to see him go out there and get a solid win without any question marks surrounding it.
Big time fight. You let us know down below in the comment section who you have. Are you going with Kazakhstan's own Zhalgas Zhumagulov? Both of us going with Portugal's own Manel Kape, Starboy to get the win. Big time fights coming up on this main card. Chris Curtis, Brendan Allen. Who else is there? Maki Pitolo is fighting Dusko, Todorovic. You're not going to want to miss it. Let's keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say,
let's get into it.